right, so we are live for a new episode of the 9521 Atlanta Baseball Podcast. Hopefully, we're having some technical difficulties, so anybody that tuned in right at 9 o'clock to check us out on X, I apologize. We were having technical difficulties. We're on now. Hopefully, all is well, and we could get through this episode. And we're ready to go here live on X. And of course, this will be recorded and uploaded to our Spotify and Apple Podcast first thing tomorrow, and or any platform, podcast platform you might choose. It'll also be on YouTube. So, as you can see, if you join us regularly, my regular battery mate Mike is out today. He's had some surgery. He's on the injured list. So I brought in a great bench player, a pinch hitter, JP, last week on our show. My son, JP. Welcome back, JP. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you pinch hitting for Mike, and Mike should be back soon. So hopefully, again, we're having some very slow internet connection here. Hopefully, you guys can see and hear us, because this week I really wanted to, JP, I was going to do a couple giveaways. I've got some really cool Braves cards that I showed on our X page, some Braves baseball cards, a couple of rookie cards. I got a J.R. Ritchie that we'll give away, a Spencer Schwellenbach. So all you need to do if you're listening live on X right now, just comment anything, really. Just say hi, just say go Braves, or if you have a question or comment about the current team, then leave that as well. And you are automatically qualified to receive a card. I will reach out to you via whatever method. If you're on X, I will send you a message or comment under your comment to get your information and get you a special Braves card. So what we typically do here, guys, is kind of go game by game. And another successful week for the Braves, as they took 2 of 3 from the Cubs at home, and then got 2 of 3 from the Red Sox as well. This was on the heels of a series win against the Dodgers. So the Dodgers Cubs, to come out of those 2 series against 2 of the other best teams in the National League, the Braves come out 4-2. Not bad, JP, for facing those 2 teams. I think we'll take that all day, especially with the Dodgers on the road. We covered that series last time, but we come out and we take 2 of 3 from the Cubs, who have been pretty hot themselves lately. Your thoughts, JP, on getting 2 out of 3 from the Cubbies on the heels of taking 2 out of 3 from LA?
I mean, there's no way you can be upset about it, because it's better than anything we would have assumed was going to happen. I think if you looked at the road trip and then coming back and immediately playing the Cubs, you would have been happy with just going at least 3-3 against those 2 teams. So to come out 4-2 is better than I think most of us would have assumed was going to happen. So.
Yeah, for sure. The first game of that series, of course, in Atlanta, on the heels of the passing of Bobby Cox and Ted Turner, which we covered last week pretty extensively. This was the first game back at Truist, and the Braves did a really good job of, honoring those 2 gentlemen. I was at this game. I actually made the trip kind of last minute, and I just wanted to kind of be there if I could to see the tribute to those 2 guys. Obviously, we talked about it last week. We won't belabor that point, but it made a big difference, especially people my age growing up watching the Braves, and really set the stage for Braves fans of your age, JP. But
right.
Game as well. The Braves jumped out 1-0. They fell behind briefly, but then a 4-run fifth kind of keyed this game for Atlanta in their favor. Some highlights from this one: Austin Riley got his 6th home run, and for all the struggles that we've talked about with Austin Riley, he's actually, he's got 6 home runs. He's driven in, I think, 25 runner RBI. So even with his struggles, he's still been fairly productive, and he appears to be kind of coming out of that early season slump. It was huge to see him get this home run, and then really huge to see Mike Yastrzemski get on the board, his first home run into the chop house, which is really kind of the reason AA signed Yastrzemski, was to hit homers specifically off right-handed batters into the chop house. Yeah. This was his first one. Really gave the Braves a cushion there, a 5-2 win. How big was that home run for Yastrzemski, JP?
Just in the sense of like how he fits in the team, where he's going, people being able to count on him. fans especially. I think his welcome was being worn thin in Atlanta. So just in terms of how he feels as a fit on the team, I feel like it was a big moment for a lot of people when they heard it. I remember I was walking down the street listening to the game in the AirPods on the radio, and kind of jumped up because I was not expecting anything from him. And was this, sorry if for being unclear, was the home run before or after? He had a big double in that same game, right?
In this game, let me make sure I'm thinking about the same game. So no, this game Yastrzemski, he did go 2 for 2, but the other one I believe was I think he had an RBI single though, because that was a 2-run
Okay.
homer. Yeah, an RBI
I remember
single.
him. Yeah, it felt like there was just a couple big moments for him where he delivered, and so I think that's one thing. But also for him personally, you got to imagine that feels good to just finally kind of get that monkey off your back of like, man, what am I doing here? Because he's kind of playing that role, that revolving door role that the Braves have had over the last couple of years. Last year it was Kelnick, or perhaps the year before, but you know it's just kind of that left field spot can sometimes just be whoever we find in the bargain bin. And you know, good for him for making it his own this week. So
Yeah, look, he's a very streaky hitter. We knew that when we acquired him. He's never been a guy that's going to, be consistent across the board. So it was only a matter of time before he got on a heater, and he's definitely been on one this week. So that was huge. And just on a night where the Braves were honoring Bobby Cox and Ted Turner, it was good to get a win. Grant Holmes started that game. He went 4, gave up a couple of earned runs. I actually only gave up 1 hit, but he walked 4, which continued to be kind of an issue for him. But to me, pitching wise, the story here was Didier Fuentes, 3 innings, no hits, no runs, struck out 3, walked 1. Fuentes is turning into that guy. We want him to be a starter, and he may still ultimately be that, but he's kind of becoming that guy who bridges that gap between the starter and our guys in the 7th, 8th, the Dylan Lees, the Robert Suarez, and of course Iggy. He's really good in that role so far, and when you get to the postseason, which we're a long way from that, but a guy like Fuentes who can come in and give you those 2 or 3 innings where he's just pretty much unhittable is really huge. So for now, at least, where we're at injury-wise, I kind of like keeping Fuentes in that role, JP. Have you been able to kind of assess where he's at, just kind of being that middle relief guy right now?
Yeah, right now he's too valuable to the team as the piece he's playing right now. He's too valuable there with how the team is constructed and how the rest of the team is playing. But it's only because you have the luxury of the rest of the rotation being as solid as they are. And a couple of those guys, we all kind of feel like might be overperforming. So I think ultimately Fuentes is somebody that as long as the team continues to play like it is, you can't move him. You can't change anything. But his ultimate destination is the rotation. And when you get, the vibe around the games changes when the leaves start to change the color. So, when you get to October, are we going to feel this like, man, Fuentes, we got to get him out of that pen. He's just, he'd be so much more valuable in those early innings. So I think right now, when it comes to just getting through the season, getting through the dog days coming up, kind of holding this division lead, if not building it, then you can't change anything. Everything's working too well for anything to be changed, especially with him. He's doing great in that role. He's doing as great as you can hope. He's like Johnny Viners back in the day. They're the first guy you bring in out of the pen. And but I mean, like, it's one of those things where come fall, the needs of the team change. And we're probably going to want to see him in the rotation by then.
Yeah, look, we're a long way from October, and this team could change a lot between now and then, both, positively and negatively, injuries, but also the trade deadlines in between. AA could make some moves. Long way from October, but I really like him in that role, the way he's pitching right now. So game 2, the Braves took this one 4-1 over the Cubbies to win the series. A 3-run 8th inning keyed this win. Drake Baldwin goes deep for the 11th time, and then in that 8th inning, Mauricio Dubon, who continues to, you look at his batting average, and he's actually been in a little bit of a slump from where he started.
Yeah.
He's had some huge hits for this team, and his value as far as being able to play pretty much almost any position on the field right now for the Braves is huge.
Right.
Okay start from J.R. Ritchie, who really struggled as we're recording this on Monday night. We won't talk too much about the game against the Marlins. Game 1's not going well for our Braves. We'll cover that one next week. But this game against the Cubs, Richie 4 1/3, 2 hits, which is good. Only 1 earned run, but he did walk 3, struck out 4. J.R. Richie's biggest issue so far has been I think he's a little bit hesitant to challenge hitters in the zone, so he's missing. He's trying to keep it out of the zone because he doesn't trust his stuff yet. I think that'll get better as we go on. It's funny because I remember Schwellenbach had kind of the opposite problem. He stayed out of he stayed in the zone too much. So young pitchers, they have to develop. Obviously it worked out for Schwellenbach pretty well once he got the hang of it. Want to give us a shout out to Martin Perez too. He pitched an inning of relief in this game, had a couple of strikeouts. He continues. He's kind of the Mauricio Dubon of the pitching staff. He's starting games. He's covering innings for the bullpen. The Braves are really kind of filling in this bullpen and rotation with a lot of guys who, Ronaldo Lopez right now is pitching out of the pen, former starter, former reliever before that. They're kind of patchworking this thing together, JP. But as the season goes on, I think those roles become more clearly defined, especially if they get, Waldrop back, Schwellenbach back at some point. Then you can use a Grant Holmes as exclusively a reliever, maybe Fuentes out there. But it's really a good problem to have because pitching depth is the key, right? I mean, the Braves have it right now.
And that's why they lead the league in ERA. They've got a 2.94 ERA in a season that you've seen a lot of wonky pitching stats because of ABS and how people are responding to it. Actually, I read this morning that we're looking at the most unintentional walks in the season by far since like 1998 or something like that. So in a year where pitching has just been kind of significantly impacted by this major rule change for the Braves to not only be going on a staff that in spring I don't think anybody would have considered to be this strong. Certainly not best ERA in the league potential. To look at it as we're about to roll into June here and have not only the lowest ERA in the league, but to be first in wins, to be second in WHIP, to be top 5 in saves as well. It just goes to show that the strength is all the way from the rotation through the back of the pin. And that's one of those things that it's too valuable to not go mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to our fellow Romantic About Baseball Network partners. Highlights from Lowlifes, some really great, first of all, great title for their show. I can tell you, second of all, some really cool guys. Rob Weber leading that motley crew of guys who talk ball on a weekly basis on Wednesday nights on the Mic'd Up app. I highly recommend that. They gave us a shout out here, go Braves. And then they also mentioned some breaking news today that I didn't see coming. I don't think the beat writers saw it coming because they were talking about maybe Friday, but Ronald Acuna Jr. was activated tonight for Atlanta. A little bit of a surprise just because the scuttlebutt had been they wanted to wait till they got out of Miami on that turf to maybe bring him back. He did not play tonight, but he was activated. But let me make sure. Let me double check that before I say he did not play tonight. I don't believe he did. I'd hate to give false information. Yeah, so Acuna did not start tonight. He has not played. So he was activated, did not play tonight. We'll see. Terrible night for the Braves tonight all around. Again, we'll talk about that one next week. We'll push that one away. But yeah, Acuna's back. Thank you for highlights from Low Life for the shout out and for that breaking news. So the Braves end up dropping game 3 of the series 2-0. Bad night for the offense. Sometimes you got to give the opposing pitchers credit too. Ben Brown only pitched 4 innings for the Cubbies, but he was pretty dominant. Struck out 7 Braves over those 4 innings. Yeah. And then their bullpen kind of took over from there. The Braves just couldn't get anything going offensively. Chris Sale was our starter, and you expect to win, usually. Last couple starts, the Braves have not supported Sale with some runs. He pitched 6, gave up a run, unearned run. Struck out 8, walked 2. So he's now got a 1.96. Absolutely nothing wrong with Sale's start. Just a bad night for the offense, but the Braves win the series. They still have not lost a series at home this year. I believe they're now 8-0 in home series. In fact, they've still only lost 1 series, period. That one at Seattle.
Yeah.
And then
13-1-1.
Yeah, which is really crazy, especially when you consider where this team was last year and the struggles they had coming out of the gate. So, look, we'll take that all day long. This has not been a great week for the offense. Thanks again to our guy, Nick Eck, one of my admins. on the Facebook page that compiles these stats, but the team as a team only batted 223 this past week. Some rough numbers there. Michael Harris, who was on a big
Yeah.
heater, he's kind of cooled off, 182 this week. Austin Riley, 273 with a couple of homers, 4 RBI. He had a double. Yeah. Only struck out 6 times. We'll take that. Matt Olson, who also had been on quite the heater. He had a rough week, 136, no homers, 7 strikeouts. So look, baseball is baseball, JP. We know that. You're going to have guys go through slumps. You're going to have guys go through heaters. Your thoughts just overall as they headed into the series with Boston, who's obviously the Red Sox struggling. They come into Atlanta, the Braves coming off back-to-back series wins. Pretty good game Friday night, but the Braves end up taking this series by winning the rubber game, which has been another strength of this team this year that we haven't seen in the last 2 years, winning that game 3 when they split the first 2. Just some general thoughts, JP, on this team and how they're handling that.
I don't think anybody was super concerned going into the Red Sox series, but even I noticed in those first 2 games, like the offense is just not showing up. And luckily, facing a team like the Red Sox, you didn't need a lot of offense anyway. Like you said, I think you can chalk it up to like just it's baseball. You're going to go through ups and downs. And I think ultimately you spoke to it, like winning game 3, winning the rubber match speaks more to what this team can do that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, which is that they can get it done when they need to. So even on the weeks like this week where the offense just wasn't showing up, like they still found a way to win games. And even we'll talk about it, but even, there was probably a diving Ha-Seong Kim away from, potentially a walk-off win, an extra win this week. And so I think it's we're very lucky to sit in a position where we can look at our offensive numbers for the week, be like, man, the boys, they're in a slump. They're not showing up. They hit a cold snap, and we're still talking about being 4-2 against the 2 best other teams in the league. And then also having won, 3 straight series by taking 2 out of 3 in a row now. So overall, it's I think you can chalk it up to, hey, it's just baseball, and keep on going.
Yeah, for sure. You bring up a couple of great points there. First of all, you're going to lose games in Major League Baseball no matter how good your team is. The best teams, they might win 100 games, which I think I saw this earlier. I believe it's been 3 years since a team won 100 games in MLB, which is kind of crazy. The best teams are going to lose 60, 70 games, right? I mean,
who was it that said you're going to win?
The Boston series is a great example of how baseball can be.
Yeah.
You're going to win 60, lose 60, and the other
what? It's what you do with the other 60 that counts.
Determine how your season goes.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I think what the Braves are doing is like saying, hey,
something like that.
Game 1 is our winning 60. Game 2 is our losing 60, and game 3 is we're winning. Where those are the ones where we're making our season.
Look, the last 2 years, not only have the Braves struggled with rubber games, they've struggled with particularly Sunday afternoon rubber games, and they've been very good with those this year. They're winning the series in those 3rd games today or yesterday, Sunday. They didn't leave any doubt. They got out early, built a good lead. And it wasn't really, stressful at all. The Braves just kind of dominated that game. So over the weekend, the Ha-Seong Kim game that you referred to Saturday, certainly the Braves had every chance to win that game after taking game 1 in dramatic fashion and walk-off fashion. The Braves had a chance to win the series on Saturday. Real quick on the Friday night game, that was started by Spencer Strider, which he was dominant in his last outing against the Dodgers. Not quite as dominant here. Still located pretty well. He looked pretty good. He did walk 3. That continues to be kind of the thing. Really, all the Brave starters except maybe Sale are struggling with it.
That's the whole league. That's a league-wide trend.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, and then I don't know if ABS is affecting that a little bit, but look, Strider went 5 1/3, 3 hits, 1 earned. He struck out 4, walked 3. You'll take that without question.
Yeah.
Dylan Lee came in. I think Dylan Lee may have given up his first inherited runner. I don't know if this game or the next one, but still, Dylan Lee's been very good. Tyler Kenley is a concern right now. He is not locating well. He's he gave up a home run in a game. I guess it was this game actually. That was kind of not a bad pitch, but he's just not locating well. And then Suarez and Iggy did their thing. Iggy got in a little bit of trouble, walked a guy, but all is well. And the Braves got the win in 10 innings here and got off to a good start in this series. Game 2 is the one that was frustrating. You felt like you had a shot.
Yeah.
Look, let me say this too, just to give some kudos to Aroldis Chapman, who I feel like has been pitching.
I was 19. If you weren't gonna mention him, I was.
Right. That guy's still throwing heat. I mean, heat at I think he's 38. They said on the broadcast. I've been watching baseball a while. I feel like Aroldis Chapman's been around forever. So credit to him. And by the way, real quick too, Friday night, credit again to our guy Yastrzemski. He's the one that got the walk-off single. Actually, I think they counted as a double to win that game. But yeah, Aroldis Chapman looked absolutely unhittable. I think in the 8th, he comes in the 9th, and the Braves actually catch a break. So 2 outs, and they get an error from the Red Sox on what should have been the game-ending play. The Braves managed to load the bases up with 2 outs, and Ha-Seong Kim, who's off to a terrible start at the plate since he came back, now he has to face, the fireballer, Aroldis Chapman, and he actually puts a great swing on the ball. And 9 times out of 10, that ball ends up in center field, and the Braves walk off again. This time it happened to hit
Chapman's thigh.
Chapman's thigh. And kudos to Chapman again, not only for the pitching, but to get up, get the ball, make the play, and throw out Ha-Seong Kim at first.
Yeah.
Deny the Braves the walk off.
Were you moving like that at 38?
I wasn't moving like that at 28. So, kudos to Aroldis Chapman throwing heat and making the moves. Good question here by our buddies at Highlights from Lowlights. Will Ronaldo Lopez make it back to the rotation, or is he better served as a long reliever? That's a great question, and it's funny because I was listening to one of our fellow Braves podcasts today on my way to I had to drive to Gainesville, Florida today, about 4 hours, and I was listening to it, and they were talking about this exact thing. And look, some of Lopez's velocity returned over the weekend as he was pitching kind of some cleanup innings. He's back to 94 and a half-ish and then touching 95, 95 and a half with his fastball, where he was down in the 91, 92 range when they kind of took him out of the rotation. If he could maintain that, he's got a great slider. He's getting some whiffs on the slider. If he can maintain that, I think he could help out back in the rotation. He's also kind of like Fuentes. He's also kind of a great piece to bring in against right-handed batters in those situations where you're just trying to bridge the gap between the starter and getting to Robert Suarez or Dylan Lee, especially with the depth issue the Braves have right now. I think he could be back in the rotation at some point, but as long as the guys that are in there now stay healthy, and unless J.R. Ritchie falls apart, which – look, he didn't have a great start tonight as we record this, but I think he might have a permanent place in the bullpen at this point. We'll have to wait and see. Do you have any thoughts there, James?
Yeah, the same thing I was thinking with Fuentes is it might happen, but it's not gonna be this season. It's he might find a spot in the rotation spring next year, but right now he's too effective in the role he's in, and I don't see him being. If they do have to replace a Ritchie or a Holmes or what have you, I don't think he's the first or second option for that. So I think he's pretty firmly in the bullpen for this year, and we'll see what happens with this organization. You never know what's going to happen month to month, much less year to year. So I'm not going to say he'll never make it back to the rotation, but he's just too valuable in the pen right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, baseball is a lot different than it was 20, 25 years ago. One of the things that's different is the way they kind of patchwork the pitching staff together. You've got more injuries, I guess, because guys are throwing harder. We've talked about all that on other podcasts. You really have to treat the 162 differently and then worry about October when you get there. And the Braves of 2021 are a great example of that. That was a mediocre team for about 80% of the season in 2021, and they just went on a heater at the end of the season and into October. Same thing with the 2019 Washington Nationals. I mean, we've seen that several. The 2023 Diamondbacks, who didn't win it all, but they got to the World Series. Yeah. So just manage the staff. And I'll tell you one thing that I think is a key for the Braves: keep Chris Sale healthy. If Sale has to miss a couple of starts to give him some extra rest, then okay, that's absolutely fine. Give him the extra rest. Even in this game Saturday, Bryce Elder. I mean, we'd be remiss not to give him another shout out. Bryce Elder
Yeah.
continues to give us consistency. There was a situation in this game, and I know a lot of Braves fans debated this on social media. Elder ends up going 8 innings, gives up 7 hits, 3 earned, strikes out 3, walks nobody, by the way. And that was great, I thought, after his last start where he started off dominantly and then just had an inning where he fell apart, walked a bunch of guys, no
Right.
walks. The situation was, though, they let him pitch into the 8th.
Right.
And apparently Martin Perez was up in the bullpen at this point, who's very good against lefties, and they had some lefty batters coming up. I think this loss speaks to the lack of trust, and we saw it tonight, by the way. And again, we'll talk about that game next week. And Aaron Bummer as your left-handed guy and how bad he's been and how bad he was again tonight against the Marlins, because I think Weiss left Elder in there, even though his pitch count was getting high. He was in the 8th inning. It was a 1-run lead. I think he left Elder in there because he trusted Elder more than he did bringing Bummer in.
Yeah.
And if Elder had gotten one more out, the Braves probably win this game. He gives up a 2-run homer. Right. I wasn't mad at Elder at all. The offense needs to score. And B, if we trusted Aaron Bummer, no offense to Bummer, but he's been terrible, then you probably don't put yourself in that situation. I mean, my goodness, Elder still after that has a 2.01 ERA for the season. He's been, except for Chris Sale, the most consistent. You can't blame Elder for this loss.
No, not at all. And I don't think Bummer is I don't think we're gonna be talking about him on the podcast much come post All-Star break time. So
yeah, the only reason Bummer's still around, we talked about this before, is $9.5 million. I think that's really the reason he's still there. But at some point, you've got to figure. I saw today he's covered exactly a total of 4 innings in the month of May. That's just wasting a roster spot at this point.
Yeah, so. It's not sustainable long term for a team that wants to contend.
No, absolutely not. So tough loss for the Braves. Ha-Seong Kim almost became the hero, as Mike said. 99 times out of 100, the pitcher doesn't know where that ball goes, and Kim gets on at least and ties it up. And maybe 75 out of 100, that ball gets into center field, and the Braves actually win the game. So tough break. That's baseball. We go to Sunday, and again, we mentioned it, the rubber games. The Braves have been really good, and Austin Riley gets the Braves on the board in the first inning, 3-run homer, gets them going early. They tack on 2 more in the second, so 5-0 before Boston can really blink and know what's going on. So that was Riley's 7th homer of the year, 3-run shot. Yastrzemski goes deep again, so another good sign. And then Grant Holmes. Now, look, I don't want to insult the city you live in here, JP. You're living in Boston currently. The Red Sox have not been great, and their offense is not great. It hasn't performed great. But Grant Holmes goes 6, scatters 5 hits. He kind of got himself in and out of a little bit of trouble. Only walked 1, struck out 4. One of his better starts, and the bullpen needed that. They needed some time off. Ronaldo Lopez, who we mentioned a minute ago, came in, gave them 2 innings, gave up 2 hits but no runs. Did not walk anybody. Again, I think that's a big key. And then Tyler Kinley, who was so locked down good for the Braves at first, he struggled again, gave up the shutout in the 9th, gave up a couple of hits. But look, stress-free win. Braves win this one 8-1. They take the series against the Red Sox. And, again, stay undefeated at home. Key thing here, Austin Riley looks like he's coming out of that. He also had a hit the other way.
Yeah.
He had another ball that he hit solidly. I remember he took it to right field and was caught. Looks like he's coming out of that. He's now up to 220, which doesn't sound great, but considering where he was, we'll take that. He had 3 RBI in this game. Drake Baldwin, 2 RBI. He's at 301. He continues to just deny the sophomore slump. He's just been incredible. So, look, overall, the week was a little rough for the offense, but as you mentioned earlier, JP, they still came out 4-2. Won the series against both teams. You really can't ask for more than that in May.
Yeah.
We're getting close to that Memorial Day. That's the traditional spot where people say you are what you are. Right. I feel pretty good about where the Braves are as we get close to Memorial Day.
It's almost time to start getting unrealistically excited about trade deadline pieces we're not going to get. All right. I've already seen mock-ups of Mike Trout in a Braves uniform. So, it's what a great time. it is to be at least able to look forward to that this year rather than last year where we were already thinking about who are we going to sell off or who are we going to trade away. So yeah, man, I'm excited to as we cross the Memorial Day threshold and move into these ridiculous who is our wizard of a general manager going to grab for us this year, and who are the it's an exciting part of the year to get your trade deadline wish lists. So
Yeah, for sure. You started breaking up a little bit there, but yeah, for sure. The silly season is coming up sooner than we might think as the trade deadline approaches. And look, the Braves, I think a couple relievers, a lefty reliever would be good, somebody we can count on other than Dylan Lee. One more bat probably wouldn't hurt, although this is probably the deepest group of position players I've ever seen the Braves have, going back to the 90s even, like
right,
Mauricio Dubon, and you got Mario and Dominic Smith, Mike Yastrzemski. I mean, it's just even
yeah,
he's coming back soon. I think White's about to come back. These guys can do the job when they need to. They're not going to be, as Paul Bird said the other night and took a lot of heat for. Yastrzemski's not an MVP candidate, but he's that guy that kind of makes plays, gets big hits when he needs to.
yeah,
And by the way, if you're somebody out there, look, I want as many new followers as possible. But man, if you were criticizing Birdie for that comment that he made in that interview with Yastrzemski, come on, guys. Yastrzemski, first of all, knows he's not an MVP candidate. Okay, I think he's pretty comfortable with that, and he defended Birdie after that. So come on,
yeah.
let's get Paul Bird. By the way, side note here from Mike, our usual co-host. He says, "JP, you're doing great. Thank you for taking his spot tonight. He doesn't have much of a voice, and his shoulders are killing him. So Mike had some surgery, some serious surgery. So Mike, we hope you feel better, buddy, and get back soon. But JP, you are doing a good job. Appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, hey, maybe I could look into doing this for a career or something.
Yeah, and that'd be crazy since you have a degree in that and all, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I encourage you. Let's see what Mike got another comment here. He says he's seen mock-ups of Rafael Devers in a Braves uniform and screaming at the people that made them to don't you put that on. Yeah, we don't want Rafael Devers. All right. Look, I've seen those. All right. Two things real quick here, Braves fans. Number one, we're not getting Mike Trout. Okay. I know it sounds great and it's exciting to think about. That's not an AA type of move. It's not happening. And B, we're not getting Rafael Devers, and we don't want Rafael Devers. Okay.
No.
So let's just go ahead and get that clubhouse cancer rumor out of the way. We don't want Rafael Devers. So, yeah.
Man, I don't want to crack.
You're right, JP. As the trade deadline gets closer.
Yeah. I don't want to crack open the lid too early on trade deadline talk. We can totally do a future podcast episode on trade deadline wish list with Mike. But, man, we mentioned him earlier. Wouldn't you love to add Chapman to the back of that bullpen, move everybody else up an inning?
Oh, man. You put Aroldis Chapman in that Braves bullpen, which, again, probably won't happen. Can you imagine, though, having Suarez, Iggy, and Chapman? If you're able to keep those guys and not trade them for Chapman, you get to the seventh inning, that ball game's over. You had Dylan Lee to that. You get to the sixth inning, that ball game's over. I don't remember the guys' names, and I apologize to the Royals fans who probably would never listen to this podcast. But the 2015 Royals team, I believe it was, that won the World Series, they had a bullpen like that where if they got to the sixth inning with a lead, they were almost unstoppable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, you win World Series in a variety of different ways. And certainly, I don't care how we get there. I would love to see one more from this group we have. So we've got several people watching. I want to encourage you guys, leave a message or comment if you're on X. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're streaming live on both of those platforms. Just comment literally anything. I want to put you in the running for a free card. I was going to put up. I've got a Schwellenbach rookie that we can get out to you. So I know Braves fans would love to have that, and I think I got the same picture, unfortunately. Let's see. I've also got a Hurston Waldrop rookie. I got to get that picture up. But definitely a Schwellenbach. I got a Hurston Waldrop. And look, as we go forward throughout the season, coming up here, guys, I got I've got a few Eric Hartman Chrome Bowmans coming up. All right. And if you're familiar with what Eric Hartman's doing, there's the Hurston Waldrop card right there, rookie card. So Waldrop and a Schwellenbach. I've also got a J.R. Ritchie. Of course, I've got Acuña. I got Michael Harris. I got Ozzie. I got Matt Olson. I got Austin Riley. But I figure some people might want these rookie cards because they are cool to have. I got Eric Hartman. JP, I don't know if you're familiar with Eric Hartman. He's been tearing it up at Rome for the Braves in High A. Expected to get a promotion to Columbus soon to Double A, and if he can succeed at Double A against, they say that's the biggest jump from Rome from High A to Double A. It's kind of your biggest jump as a player. We could see Eric Hartman a lot sooner than later in the majors. He's been bashing the ball down there, so I got his card's gotten pretty popular. So I've got a few Chrome Bowman Eric Hartmans that we'll give away on future shows. So guys, if you're keeping up with the minor leagues, you know who Eric Hartman is, and a lot of good stuff coming down the pipe from that guy, hopefully. So yeah, we're gonna give away some cards, but you got to comment. You got to leave me a comment, and Mike, I'll give you whatever cards you want, buddy, since you're not feeling well. Highlights from Low Life says they want a Rick Camp or Bruce Benedict. Hey, I got you. If this is Rob, by the way, especially if this is, I'm sure it's Rob. I got you, Rob. I've got a Bruce Benedict. We have to do a little searching for a Rick Camp, but I'll find one, buddy. I promise. So yeah, leave us a comment, JP.
So, Dad, I want to ask you this question, and I'll ask the live viewers as well. I know we're moving towards wrapping up, but I'm curious your take on this. The Phillies are now 2 games above 500. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're on a 5-game win streak, and their run differential continues to creep up towards the positive. Right now, they're at -16, which is a lot better than it's been at any other point of the year. Are the Phillies a team that you are worried about? Is it more of an October worry? Is it more of a catching us in the division worry? Do you think they're just riding a little hot streak because of the culture change, or do you feel like Mattingly turned a key and has figured that team out?
Yeah, so I never believed the Phillies were as bad as they looked. It's funny because I think people overlooked, especially casual fans probably overlooked one key factor about the Phillies' poor start. When they lost all those games in a row, they were almost all to the Braves and the Cubs.
Yeah.
Like, really, exclusively. They played the Braves in 2 different series. They played the Cubs. Take those teams. I mean, both those teams have been playing well, right? I mean, the Braves have the best record in baseball. The Cubs have been up there. I think it was kind of like the Braves last year, that unfortunate start where they had to start on the West Coast. They played the Padres and the Dodgers to start the year.
Yeah.
You give the Braves a different start, and I think the season may have gone a little differently. I still don't think the Braves would have been a great team, but I thought the Phillies would figure it out. I don't like to give too much credit or blame to managers. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure it's Mattingly so much as just the Phillies started playing other teams. They've played some teams lately that have been a little more, beatable, I guess you could say. So I kind of give more credit to the schedule than I like Don Mattingly. He's actually one of my favorite non-Brave guys. So it's not a bash on Mattingly. I feel like the schedule got better. I do fear the Phillies. Their history of beating the Braves in the postseason when the Braves should have been the winners with 2022, 2023. The 2023 Braves team, guys, is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Braves offenses, at least, that I've ever seen in my life.
I was going to say disappointment.
Yeah, well, that too, once they got to the postseason. And that Phillies team those 2 years seemed like they were more built for the postseason than the Braves were. Much like that 2021 Braves team seemed more built for the postseason than the teams they played in the postseason that year.
Right.
So really, again, I go back to you've got to be playing well in October. You've got to have the pieces in place to get the job done in October. I think the Phillies could come back and make a race of this because I do feel like the Braves will probably have a lull somewhere. They lost pretty badly tonight to the Marlins. You never know when that slide will start.
Yeah.
The Braves lose 10 out of 15, and the Phillies could win, 12 out of 14, and all of a sudden this division is really close. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a race in the second half. The Phillies are a good baseball team. I thought they would be a good baseball team this season. They've had much the same problem though. Once they get to the postseason, they've wasted some opportunities. Even after they beat those Braves teams, they didn't win a World Series. So to answer your question, yes, I do fear the Phillies. I think the Phillies, if we were doing power rankings right now, I've seen a lot of them today having the Phillies outside the top 10. I would have the Phillies in the top 5. I think they're that good right now.
Yeah, interesting. And then I also want to add too, just while we're on the topic of the rest of the division, in regards to the Mets now are still in last place, 20-26. They are 6-4 in their last 10. But I did see an interesting stat about them today, and I wanted to share. The Mets had 19 players participate in the World Baseball Classic. There were 5 major league teams that had more than 14 players participate in the World Baseball Classic. And all 5 of those teams are well under 500 and are off to disastrous starts. The Mets being probably the most noticeable because they were they're a talented team. There was high expectations. They had the most players participate in the WBC. So maybe a twofold question here. On the one hand, do you feel like there is correlation equaling causation when we talk about participation in the WBC versus bad starts this year? And are the Mets a team that you also see kind of figuring it out and turning around as the season goes on? Or do you think they are who they are?
Whew, you're throwing some good ones out there, son. First of all, I'm trying to figure out how the WBC would negatively affect these guys because spring training is all about ramping up, right? Especially if it's about ramping up, getting that timing down, and I would think the WBC would help with it. We've kind of seen that as just real quick. Sorry, real quick. We've kind of seen that with Acuna. Acuna hit the ball really well in the WBC, and he got off to a really slow start. So you do start to wonder, is there an effect there? I'm just trying to figure out why that would be, and I can't come up with a good reason.
I also would have thought that, it would have served the same purpose as spring training, ultimately, mechanics-wise. There was one NL exec that went anonymously on record with The Athletic and said that having so many stars, so many veterans, especially missing from the clubhouse during spring training, all the new guys coming in and kind of getting by without the bulk of the talent there, threw off their rhythms, like for the team that stayed. And so, you get to the regular season, and it's like, that first month or two of the regular season feels like spring training to them in the clubhouse. And so I wonder, I like, that's interesting because I would have had the same assumption as you that as far as mechanics goes, it's serving the same purpose, but it sounds like the detriment is coming in terms of clubhouse culture and team cohesion.
Yes, those are great points. I have always been very curious about how things affect baseball players because they can go into unexplainable slumps, right? You can have a guy just hitting the cover off the ball, and then all of a sudden he can't seem to find a base hit to save his life. Same thing with pitchers. They're unstoppable, and then Bryce Elder was a great example, is not this past start, but the one before it. For 5 innings, the guy was dominant, and then all of a sudden he couldn't find the strike zone. He walked 3 straight people and loaded the bases. So I could see the WBC, like you just said, like I could see that throwing these guys off. At the same time, you would think it might help some other guys, like because instead of playing these lazy kind of laid back spring training games, you're playing in games that matter, that there's a lot of fans, there's a lot of excitement. I mean, if you're in Miami and Houston, these places were popping, man. It's the only time Lone Depot Park in Miami's, rocking, unfortunately, for the Marlins. Yeah. I have a hard time attributing it to the WBC overall. I think it could have some effect. But you look at a guy like Austin Riley, who didn't play in the WBC and was bashing the ball in spring training, and then he comes out in the regular season and can't hit, water from a boat to start out with. And so sometimes I think it's just baseball. Baseball is hard. It's the hardest sport, in my opinion, to learn, to play. You're trying to hit a 100-mile-per-hour ball, at least 96, 99, and then the guy's going to change it up and throw you an 83-mile-per-hour changeup and a slider that breaks away. Can you imagine? I mean, we've played MLB The Show. We get frustrated, like playing a video game. I just have a hard time attributing it to the WBC in general, but you do wonder when you see those kind of stats, like with the Mets. I also think the Mets, as Mike mentioned in one of his comments, they're kind of a collection of talent. I do think there's some chemistry developing there, though. They brought up a couple of young guys. They brought up, I think his name's Ewing kid, Carson Bench, the young kid as well. There seems to be some chemistry developing there that they didn't have. Now, on the downside, Clay Holmes, one of their starting pitchers, got hurt. He's probably out for probably the year. It looks like broken. He's from our area, JP, from Slocum.
Yeah, Slocum.
So tough break for him, no pun intended. And so I don't think they can build it back to contend. Look, 3 wild cards means almost anybody can contend in the second half.
Yeah.
But I don't think the Mets are a serious threat. The Phillies are a serious threat.
Sure.
I don't think the Mets are. And I want to see more data on the WBC effect before we attribute it to that. It kind of reminds me of a couple of years ago, we were all screaming how getting the bye in the first round of the MLB playoffs may not be a good thing. But then last year, I believe almost every team that got a bye advanced.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need a bigger sample size, and that's kind of where I'm at. Our guys at Highlights says, I say, excellent point about WBC. He may be the only person who doesn't care about this event, and just pray that none of my favorite players are injured prior to the regular season. Valid point.
Man.
Valid point. I was on needles with Acuna and Ozzie Albies playing in this thing for the Braves, but I really do enjoy the event.
Man, I love it. I didn't miss a game even when Team USA wasn't playing.
Look, it's fun. It's better than spring training baseball, although I will say, as an old guy, there is some romantic aspect of the spring training, kind of lazy, just enjoy the game for the game and not worry about who wins and loses, just see how the prospects are playing, how are your veterans developing. Like, there is that. But when you have competitive baseball that involves Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge and Kyle Schwarber, it's pretty interesting to watch, especially, look, anytime they put Team USA across the front of that jersey, I'm going to watch, I'm going to pull for that team. I'm not a hockey guy, but I followed Olympic hockey for 2 weeks, back in the winter time, right?
Do you remember watching that Four Nations face-off last summer when they
incredible. It was
immediately
incredible.
threw down? Yeah. I think ultimately the WBC is probably headed towards a summer all-star break in between fate, which I'd be fine with. But yeah, the WBC is it sucks if it is the cause of why some of these teams. I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, we can't send our players there. It's too good for the game.
It is. It's good. And look, a lot of the Latin American players, maybe some of the Japanese players, I know the Latin American players came out and said that this meant more to them than a World Series, which is kind of unfathomable to us as American baseball fans. But look, I get it. Like, that's
basically every every country's team except Team USA felt that way. Japan, Korea, Taiwan. Oh man, guys, if you ever get a chance, look into the baseball rivalry between Japan and Korea. It's crazy.
And look, as much as I'm a baseball traditionalist and I love to long for the times of the 1930s and 40s I never even lived through, but just that nostalgic feeling, guys, we're not going back to that. And the game is going to develop, it's going to evolve, and it has to, or you're going to lose the younger group of fans. Look, if they didn't have a father like you did who taught you about the game and how great it was, you're probably not watching a lot of baseball. I was out tonight with some work colleagues, and the guy I was talking to lives in Atlanta, and he's just not a baseball guy. So I didn't watch it growing up. It's not on my radar. It's not something I'm interested in. I totally get it. If I was growing up right now and nobody to kind of teach me the game, I probably wouldn't like baseball. So we need baseball to grow, to keep it alive. And even if it doesn't grow in the way that we want it to, at least the game is still the game, right?
Yeah, and I like how it exposes us to new stars. Like, I remember the last WBC, they put the cards for WBC players into MLB The Show, the Diamond Dynasty, and it was even for guys who weren't necessarily in the major leagues. So, I was hitting bombs. I knew what Munetaka Murakami was capable of from the video game 3 years ago, and now he's probably going to win AL Rookie of the Year. I was throwing 103, 104 with Roque Sasaki, and now he's Not quite as good for the Dodgers as he was in the video game, but just playing the video game the year the WBC like introduced me to these stars. So, one of these days, man, the Braves will sign somebody out of the NPB.
Yeah, look, I do think it's only a matter of years before we have a true international World Series, perhaps. I mean, look, Japan plays baseball at a very high level.
Yeah.
I had a great guest on a while back, and I'm going to have him back again. He's experienced baseball in Japan. He's lived in Japan. He says it's like college football here. They take it so seriously. It's an event. It's only a matter of time. We've seen these Japanese players come over and have great success. Of course, Shohei and Roki Sasaki and just Yamamoto. I mean, we could go on and on. They all seem to play for the Dodgers, but not Murakami, by the way, who's killing it over there in Chicago. But
every baseball exec in baseball should feel silly about not signing Murakami. He signed for a $5 bill and a bag of chips with the worst team in the American League.
Well, used to be. They're pretty good this year. Maybe that's a lot to do with him, but the White Sox are not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
No, this is great discussion. This will be a great romantic about baseball discussion as well. But we cover everything here on the 9521. Braves baseball, international baseball, the NL East. We'll talk all of it right here, guys. No problem. I do want to mention that coming up, starting next week's episode is a little bit up in the air because I will actually be visiting my son here. If you just joined us or you didn't understand what was going on, this is my son, JP. He lives in Boston. Grew up where I'm actually in Gainesville, Florida right now, but we're from South Alabama, and he moved to Boston last August-ish, I think, September. Yeah, and JP is he moved up there to do some ministry work for a church, and now he's also teaching some middle schoolers, which I know he's having a lot of fun with, and they're having a lot of fun with his accent. I think his Southern accent. But we're going to go visit him next week as the Braves, but they don't happen to be. We planned it that way. The Braves are going to be at Fenway Park next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We will be there Tuesday and Wednesday, my wife and I, visiting JP in Boston for a few days, catching the Braves at Fenway, knocking Fenway off of our ballpark chasing list. It'll be my 9th Major League ballpark. So I'm excited. I'm almost a third of the way there. And so all that being said, Monday night, I think we'll be able to handle the show. If Mike is back, JP, I mean, me and my wife will be in a hotel. We can probably figure it out, but we'll make sure an episode gets out to you guys regardless. We'll figure it out one way or another. Hopefully the Braves recover from a really terrible game tonight as we record this out in Miami. They got 3 more with the Marlins this week, JP, and then a weekend series with the Nats at home before they visit the Red Sox there where you're at. So tomorrow, Martin Perez, who we mentioned earlier, takes the mound. Perez 2-2 with a 2.25 ERA. He's going to be facing Braxton Garrett, and you can't always go by numbers, but Garrett's 0-1 with a 33.75 ERA. I'm assuming he probably hasn't pitched much. So Garrett's pitched 1 1/3 innings and gave up some runs, so that's why he's got 33.75 ERA. After bless his heart. After that, and by the way, that's kind of a weird 4:10 Eastern time start. I think the Marlins do that almost on every homestand, but that's a 4:10 Eastern. So Braves fans, take that into account as you make your plans to watch the game. Then it's Chris Sale, 6-3 with a 1.96 ERA, 64 strikeouts, and interesting name for the Marlins pitcher. His name is Jansen Junk. I wonder if he throws a lot of curveballs, a lot of breaking balls. Jansen Junk. Jansen is 2-4 with a 4.14 ERA, 50 innings pitched, 37 strikeouts. Then they'll wrap up that series on Thursday, and that will be Spencer Strider against, and I never know how he likes his name pronounced, but Sandy Alcantara or Sandy Alcantara, however you prefer to pronounce it. Sandy is 3-2 with a 3.53 ERA, 45 strikeouts. So he's pretty good, obviously. We'll hope we get best of Strider. And then the weekend series with the Nats before a day off, and that 3-game set in Boston, and then a 3-game set at Cincinnati to finish off the month of May. And then we're already there. We're already at the end of May. And, at the worst, you got to figure the Braves are still going to be in first place at that point. And we'll do our Memorial Day assessment after that week, JP. But any thoughts, just kind of overall where the Braves are as we head into the final weeks here of May?
Man, just nothing too different than what I've shared already. Just, I think where we looked at where this team was in the spring, where we assumed we would be right now, we're far beyond that. It's feels lucky to be able to talk about, like, man, we can start making our trade deadline wish list. We can start voting our guys 30 times a day for the All-Star game. And yeah, that's you got to be happy where the Braves are, because they are the best team in baseball. So what thoughts can you have other than, like, man, we're still hoping that carriage isn't going to turn into a pumpkin anytime soon. But I feel like that feeling is going away for a lot of Braves fans.
Well, look, here's the question I would ask you, since you had all those great questions for me. I've thought a lot about this. The Braves, to me, are in a handful of teams: Yankees, Dodgers, Phillies, maybe. And that might be it, kind of an exclusive club, where if you don't win the World Series, is it a disappointing season no matter how good your regular season is?
Unfortunately, yes, which sucks because the nature of baseball's postseason is that we're going to get there and we're going to end up with, like, I don't know, like Pirates Guardians, because the nature of the MLB postseason is odd and funky and weird. So I think I think at the very least you're disappointed with anything less than an NL pennant, or anything less than an NLCS appearance. At least go up against, go face LA in 7 games in the championship series, hopefully. And then, if you lose to that machine out there, it is what it is. You're just here, it's like trying to face saving Crimson Tide in the early 2010s. Thanks for coming, but it's not your time.
Yeah, you lost before you got off the bus. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I think right now, I don't know that you chalk the season up to World Series or bust, but I think anything less than an NLCS appearance feels disappointing. And I think that sucks because the nature of baseball's postseason is you could, draw the Pirates in a best of 5 in the first round of the playoffs and, get 3 days of a really strong rotation where your offense just doesn't show up and then call it a day. So,
yeah, I agree with you. And I will say this. I think, and you and I share the same college football team. I think that's a good comparison because there's probably not a worse place to be as a sports fan than when your team is in the middle of the road. They're not good enough to compete for a world title or a national championship. They're not terrible most of the time. And you're trapped in the – and I'll give a couple examples that I've picked on these teams, and it's not because – I dislike these teams. I actually have generally in the past pulled for these teams. But Milwaukee and Cleveland are stuck in this perpetual cycle in baseball of we're good enough to get to the postseason, but we're not going to the World Series. Now, Cleveland got there, lost a tough series to the Cubs. So I know they are capable, I suppose. But lately, they feel more like the Brewers, who, bless their heart, are good enough to get to the postseason, and then they're just not going any further. And we all kind of know that. I mean, saw the discrepancy between them and the Dodgers last year in the NLCS. I would almost rather be not a great team for a few years, get some good draft picks, build a team that can contend, than be in that middle ground where, you can celebrate winning the division or a wild card banner. But as 2 guys who thankfully, and obviously you've only been able to celebrate 1, but our team has won 2 world titles in my lifetime. It means something. I mean, I know what it means to watch your team win a world title. We've got to see it kind of, me and you at the same age. I saw the Braves win their first one when they were 18. When I was 18, you were 21. Mm-hmm. It means something to see your team climb that mountain. I'm sure 2021 is something you'll never forget. 95 is something I'll never forget. 21 is something I'll never forget. As far as the Braves, I would rather pull for a team that the expectation is win it all or it's a disappointment. It makes it rough when you don't, because I've been a Braves fan for 40-plus years, and I've only seen them finish it twice. But I still would rather have that than be, God forbid, Pittsburgh, bless their hearts. Pittsburgh fans haven't seen a world title since 1979. I'd rather have that expectation myself. That's just me.
I'll counter with this. You've been to postseason baseball game. You've been to 2 of them, 3 of them.
3, yeah.
You've been to 3 postseason baseball games.
3 postseason games.
Yeah. So I'm going to counter with this. You've also been to Turner Field and SunTrust Park in years where the Braves were not competing.
Yes.
Given what you know about postseason atmospheres and atmospheres around a rebuilding team, do you think those fans in Milwaukee, when it comes time to show up to the ballpark in October, to put on their gear, to buy their pennant gear, all these kinds of things, are going to trade that in anytime soon for just to not have it, to go through like a rebuilding phase? Like, man, I just think, yeah, baseball is cruel, and those falls where you get close and can't come away with it are rough. But also, like, I don't think you trade postseason baseball for anything in the world. So I think even for the teams like the Brewers and the Guardians, like, we've watched those games on TV. Those fans still show up and show out. Like, those are great postseason atmospheres. And so, I think those. I don't think those fans would trade that in, and I don't think if Atlanta turned into one of those perpetual teams of the next 5 or 6 years showing up in the playoffs only to see a first round exit or second round exit, like, man, there's still something about knowing you. I don't know that you would stop buying your postseason tickets during that 6th run. So yeah, I think I would rather be like the Brewers and the Cubs and stuck in perpetual be the perpetual bridesmaid rather than not be invited to the wedding at all.
Great points, and I basically agree with you. And it's funny because there was a point, as you probably heard, in the mid-90s where Braves fans actually started to take it for granted that the Braves were going to be in the postseason, and famously, before his Game 6 home run that helped the Braves clinch that World Series, Dave Justice called out Braves fans for not showing up and showing out because it kind of become ho-hum for that team to get to the postseason. And to your point, also, the Braves built their biggest following, which is really people my age and older, in a time where they were by and large not good. They had a couple of seasons with Murphy and that group in the early 80s. Other than that, between about 1970 and 1990, the Braves were one of the worst teams in baseball, but built a huge following on the backs of Ted Turner and TBS. And I remember watching the Braves as a kid with my grandparents when they stunk, and you didn't care about I won't say you didn't care about the outcome of the game, but you kind of took it for granted they were going to lose most of the time, but you just enjoyed the game. So I think you can separate that as a baseball lover like we are. Yes, I would definitely still watch the Braves if they were middling or if they were struggling because I love the game of baseball.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to be said about having that hope of our team is good enough most years. They're good enough at least to give me the hope that at the end of the year they can raise that commissioner's trophy.
Yeah.
They may not see it from their vantage point because it's hard as a fan. Brewers fans probably have that hope by and large, but as an outsider looking in, I'm like, look, I appreciate the kind of baseball you play. It's a fun brand of baseball. You still bases, you make contact, you pitch well. Even when you trade off your best pitchers, you find more.
Yeah,
they've got their top prospect in baseball right now, Jesus Mate. Like he's coming up. But you just don't think they can win it. Would you put money down in Vegas on the Milwaukee Brewers to win the World Series?
I mean, yeah, because I wouldn't lose much and I'd make a lot if they did. But
true. That's true.
But I do wonder, like, I think, and I'm looking at Rob's comment here about the Cubs winning 2016 and connecting it to something else here. But I remember, let me connect this to college football for just a moment. I'm going to snap back to baseball. But I remember growing up a huge college football fan, always playing the video game. And it wasn't until I was 9 years old and Alabama won the national championship in 2009 that it occurred to me that the national championship was something that feasibly every team could achieve. Because in watching it, it was always the Texases and the Ohio States and the USCs. And as a kid, it felt like that they were playing a different sport than like Auburn was. Even Auburn was pretty good even then. And in the video game, it was always, it was never, it was the other teams. It felt like a different world. So it wasn't until then, and then, luckily for me, the very next year, my team did win it, and I realized like, oh, they are capable. Now in baseball, the idea of the Braves winning the World Series was always something I heard you talk about. But it did not occur to me as something that could be possible for me to watch in my lifetime until I watched the Cubs win in 2016. Because you and I, despite not being Cubs fans, were really into that World Series. We watched most of those games. That Game 7 experience was something really special. And as excited as we got for that, I remember thinking, man, if my team could ever pull that off, that'd be amazing. And then 5 years later, they did. So all this to say, I wonder if there is a part of the brains of the Brewers and Guardians and the like fan bases where it's like, man, that goal over there is not for our team to achieve. That's the World Series that's for the Dodgers, that's for the big brands. The Dodgers is and the Braves is and the Yankees is. But we are okay with our Cotton Bowl, our Chick-fil-A Bowl, our first round NLDS home games,
City
and
Bowl. You're an Auburn fan, yeah.
right, yeah, Birmingham. But like, yeah, it's just a matter of like, hey, our what our team, what is achievable for our team is what's achievable, and they're doing that. And if ever they should make a run beyond that, great. But for now, if we understand that this is the ceiling, and we're okay as long as they keep hitting the ceiling. I do wonder if there's a portion of that fan base that has that mindset.
I think it's a great point, a great question. I will end it on this as far as that discussion. I will say that I think Braves fans in general, us included, should always be thankful for the run that we've been on for most of our lifetimes. Starting in 1991, and we talked about Bobby Cock, tying this all back to Bobby and Ted and that original group of '91 Braves who exceeded expectations. They were not supposed to be good. They're supposed to be better that year, but nobody thought they were going to win the division and go to the World Series. Look, I've seen the Braves play in 5 World Series, 6 maybe. I have to like 91, 92, 95, 96, 99, 6 World Series. I've seen them win 2. Most fans probably can't say that. I guess Yankee
Yeah,
fans, maybe Dodger fans are getting close. Other than that, the Giants have played in 3, I guess, and they won all of them. Great, but very very fortunate to be where we're at, and I think we just need to remember that when times are tough, we need to remember that. And look, when you lose a game here or there, I'm sure I haven't been on social media because we've been recording this. I'm quite certain that there are Braves fans losing their minds tonight after a tough loss to the Marlins. Baseball is baseball, man. You're going to lose some games that we mentioned earlier, but be thankful that you pull for a team that consistently is in the mix most seasons, and this year especially. Look, if you're not thinking that we can't win it all, then you're not watching this team. We could do it. We could do it this year,
yeah,
especially when you consider the American League isn't that deep. You win the National
yeah.
League, you got a pretty good shot at being the world champ.
Right now, it does feel like the NLCS is a World Series. And
Yeah.
I'll add to what you were saying about just Braves. Where the run we've been on. I was born exactly in 2000. I was right in. I missed the end of the world by 30 days. Y2K. And in my time, I'm 26. I'm 26 now, and there have only been 12 seasons in my entire lifetime that the Braves did not make the playoffs. And of those 12 seasons, 5 of them came between 2005 and 2010, and 5 of them came between 2013 and 2018. And so even in my lifetime, it's I think in my early developing, like when I really started watching baseball when I was like 12 or 13. So for a while, it felt like, oh man, my team never makes the playoffs. But now looking back, I can be like, oh wow, like that just so happened to be like my rookie years of being a fan just so happened to be like one of the few times this millennium the entire team has been down. So yeah, super spoiled over here.
Yeah, Mike makes a great point in the comments there. Since 1991, the vast majority of our lives, we've been spoiled with a damn good team. We've watched multiple Hall of Famers, one of the greatest pitching staffs, if not the greatest pitching staff of all time, one of the greatest managers of all time. Chipper Jones, one of the greatest players, switch hitters, I believe, the only switch hitter to ever bat over 300 from both sides of the plate. Fred McGriff, Andrew Jones going to the Hall of Fame soon. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now we're getting to
Dan
watch guys
Ugla.
like Acuna, the amazing Dan Ugla. Don't forget Andrelton Simmons, one of the greatest defenders of all time. Look, yes, we're very fortunate. I think Braves fans need to remember that. And, look, 30 teams in Major League Baseball, and every year only one of them is going to be happy on the very last game of the season. So you're very fortunate if you've gotten to see your team win it all. I've been fortunate to see that twice. I hope for a third one sometime soon. And there's a lot of fans out there that have never experienced that, or it's been so long. We went to Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, my wife and I, and I told you, JP, how nice those people were. The Pittsburgh fans, the Pirates fans were super nice, good people. And look, Sid Bream broke those poor folks. After Sid Bream's slide, the Pirates have just never been the same franchise. And it's a shame because there's so much history there. I'm walking around that ballpark and touring that ballpark.
Yeah.
So much history there. Those fans deserve to see a really good baseball team and a world championship. So,
yeah, I hear they're hosting. Yeah, they're hosting Die Hard. They're hosting Die Hard night Friday night. Free admission to anyone who was actually alive the last time the Pirates won a pennant.
Yes, absolutely. Which, sadly, of course, pennant. I guess you can throw Cleveland. They've won a pennant, but if you're going World Series title, Cleveland's much worse off even than the Pirates as far as a world title. So, but good throwback to Major League there for those that didn't get that reference.
Rip Bob Uecker.
Yes, Bob Uecker, rest in peace. All right, look, we've gone way longer than I intended to, but great baseball discussion. Great stuff here. So I just wanted to give a shout out. Thank you to JP. We'll have him on more often, and he and I are working on bringing back the Romantic About Baseball podcast with some new content. Also, my partner in crime on the Clearing the Bases show. If you're not watching that, you should be. Every Wednesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time, live on X and on YouTube. We have Clearing the Bases with myself, Nick from Rounding Third Baseball, Rob and Chris from NYMLB Talk, and Lorenzo from Clearing the Bases from Big League Takes. And Lorenzo, who is a baseball savant. Look, this guy knows stats. He knows history. He knows baseball. He is working with me on bringing the RAB podcast back to a weekly show. We're thinking about doing like a Romantic About Baseball after hours show where you guys can just talk baseball with us. So a lot of good things coming here on the Romantic About Baseball network. We've built a following on X now. Just a lot of good stuff going. And JP and I are going to be a part of that. Mike says he should be back next Monday. So we're looking forward to having Mike back as we will get back to it and see how that episode works out. As I'll be in Boston with you, buddy.
Yeah. We're excited. Mike, we're nailing down.
Yeah, Mike lives in Boston too, actually.
We're nailing down the schedule now.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so keep up with us on X. If you haven't figured it out, if you're following us on X, and most of our viewers tonight are on one of our two X channels, Romantic About Baseball, I call that the mothership. That's the main platform. The 9521 has its own page, but we're all connected. So follow us on both of those on X. We still have our Facebook pages. We have a TikTok account as well. We have the He Said, She Said Baseball TikTok account and X page. That's my wife and I's podcast where we talk all things ballpark chasing, baseball card collecting, and just life in general as baseball fans. And now we've gotten in pretty deep into baseball card collecting. So I'll post a link on X, but Thursday night I am actually going to have my first live baseball card auction show on the Whatnot app. So check that out as well. I got a lot of Braves cards. So if you're a Braves fan watching this, I got a lot of good really good Braves cards. I'm going to give some away tonight, but I got some really cool ones to auction off. So check that out as well. And Mike wanted to add that, follow us on Instagram also. So thank you, Mike. 9521 Instagram page. JP, anything you want to add before we?
Yeah. To heck with the Mets.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. I think that's going to become our new sign off every time JP's on. He did it last week as well. To heck with the Mets. And you know what? I'm just going to say it, even though I think they're going to come back and be pretty good. To heck with the Phillies too. Or I can't say what I want to. I want to keep this a family-oriented show, but The Phillies. All right. How about you? All right. So thanks for joining us, guys. If you join us live, we've had a really good, a lot of viewers live on X and a few on YouTube as well. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the comments. Look, a lot of you guys missed out on free baseball cards. I'm sorry, but Rob and Mike are going to get all the cards. I'll do some more giveaways, but you guys got to participate. Just make a comment, say hi, and I'll send you some free baseball cards. In the meantime, I appreciate you guys tuning in. This episode will be recorded on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast platforms first thing in the morning. So if you want to re-listen to this fantastic episode, you can, or if you get in here at the end and want to go back and listen to the rest of it, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all other platforms, and YouTube as well. We'll be on the Romantic About Baseball YouTube page. JP, thanks again for joining us. And in the meantime, guys, we'll see you at the ballpark, and go Braves.